Hello everybody, this is Mr. Sean from Fernbrook Farms. I am out in my backyard, getting outside, engaged with nature while still staying in place. And I wanted to try to share with you my love for trees. So today we are going to talk about different types of coniferous trees. Coniferous trees can be easily identified as they all share certain characteristics. All coniferous trees grow needle or scale-like leaves, like the one in front of us here, or like the other one in front of us here, and the one we saw before. Coniferous trees can also be identified by looking for whether or not the tree grows cones. Easy way to remember coniferous tree is to just mispronounce the word. Coniferous. Scale-like leaves grow very small, and they look to grow similar to the scales of a reptile. Scale-like leaves grow very close to the branches, and as the tree gets older, as those branches get older, the leaves give way to bark. Needle-like leaves grow in bundles all together. Some coniferous trees may only grow needles in bundles of 2. Some may grow with needles in bundles of 5, and the one in front of us grows needles in bundles of 3. So the first tree I'd like to help you identify is the pitch pine. It's the typical tree you find in the pine barrens where I live. So the easiest way to identify it is from its bark. Pitch pine bark grows in thick, irregular plates. It comes off very easily. It's very flaky. You do want to get a closer look because there are lots of other pine trees that have a similar bark, but just off a glance, that's going to be a good way to tell. If the needles are close enough to the ground, you can also take a look at each needle in the bundle. Pitch pine grow needles with bundles of 3. So if we get a closer look, you can see that each of the sets of needles grow in those bundles of 3. Once you get up close to the bark, you can see it grows in those thick scale-like plates with little flakes. Another thing pitch pine are well known for is their rosin. Rosin is something that all conifers share in common. They all have something called rosin ducts. So rosin ducts are small tubes that run through the tree that will produce a sticky substance called rosin anytime the tree experiences damage, whether that be from a bug burrowing in trying to infect the tree, or if a limb splits off, which is what happened to the tree in front of us. Rosin can be collected and used for lots of different things. The pitch pine is harvested mostly for creating turpentine nowadays, but way back when wooden boats were more common, the pitch pine's rosin would be used to seal wooden boats. You can also use the rosin for the bows of a violin. And if anybody's seen Jurassic Park, this is what turns into amber. This is where you would get that mosquito from. When the rosin is wet, it is very sticky and it can trap bugs. But once it is dried, it just snaps right off. So the next tree I'd like to help you identify today is the eastern red cedar. It's really easy to identify and it's one of my favorite trees. So the best way to identify an eastern red cedar is from its bark. The bark of an eastern red cedar grows in strips, and it has a beautiful red color to it when you look under that first layer of bark. Now, don't go stripping the bark off in any way, but if you see a spot that's been damaged, you'll be able to see that red color really, really easily. So the bark of this eastern red cedar appears to have been eaten by a rabbit, so it's really easy to see that red color that I was talking about. So here we can see another example of the eastern red cedar's bark. You can still see that red color underneath of the damage, but I thought this would be a better way to show how it grows in strips and how it kind of has a hair-like quality to it. The eastern red cedar grows scale-like leaves, and it grows them like a branch. And as the tree gets older, those scale leaves will give way to bark, and the whole thing will start to become a branch with other scale-like leaves on the end. The young tree of an eastern red cedar grows leaves that are very different to its older counterparts. The leaves of a young eastern red cedar are very sharp and more needle-like. They still grow with that scale-like quality to them, giving way to bark in future growth, but they won't have those softer leaves until they get older. And this is to help discourage animals like rabbits and deer from grazing the young tree before it's had a chance to make seeds. As you can see from this dead red cedar, the inner bark, the heartwood of the tree, is also a gorgeous red color. It's one of the things that makes it perfect for making furniture. Another great quality about the wood itself is it is kind of an insect repellent. So if you make a large chest out of it, you can store blankets in there and you don't have to worry about adding mothballs or anything like that. And instead of the blankets coming out smelling like mothballs, they come out smelling like cedar. And it's one of my favorite scents. It's why it's great to add to a campfire. Eastern red cedars prefer full sunlight. They're one of the first trees you'll see starting to grow in areas that may have once been a pond and are starting to become a meadow. And it's also why you won't see them in deep areas of the forest very often. When other trees like deciduous trees, broadleaf trees, move into an area, they create a lot of shade, and that shade causes the saplings not to grow as well, and they won't be able to make it to maturity like the one in front of us. Eastern red cedars can grow to roughly 40 to 50 feet tall. The one here, I'm going to guess, is roughly 40 feet tall.